Morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the back wall of the legislative chamber, and there's also an automatic external defibrillator available there. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This morning we will begin with the Douglas County Board of Trustees meeting, and I will hand that over to the chair, Trustee Duda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This meeting will be conducted in compliance with Nebraska's open meeting laws, a copy of which is on the back wall. Brandy, would you please call the roll?
Chair Duda.
Present.
Trustee Kraft. Trustee Borgeson.
Here.
Trustee Boyle. Trustee Kavanaugh. Here. Trustee Morgan. Here. Trustee Rogers.
Thank you. We have only one item on our agenda this morning, and that is the consent agenda with four rather routine items on there. Motion and a second. Does anybody wish to have any of these items pulled out for discussion? Then, Brandy, would you please call the vote? Oh, or do you want we can vote electronically? I don't care. Just vote. Okay, well, vote
Please
electronically.
Vote.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Citizens' comments. Is there anyone wishing to address the Board of Trustees? I am not aware of need for executive session. I think you all got an email from Jean Hartnett explaining why she's just slowing down a little bit on these two jobs she was going to that are on the agenda. They're still in the longer-term plans, just not quite yet. We just didn't want to be rushing things too much. I'm not aware of need for executive session. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We stand adjourned. Thank you all for a good meeting, and I turn it back over to our real chair.
Do we need a vote to adjourn?
No.
Good.
No, a vote to adjourn does not require a vote. Or a motion.
Great.
Ready? We'll move on to the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Equalization. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle, Commissioner Kavanaugh, Commissioner Duda, Commissioner Kraft, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers, Madam Chair.
Here.
All commissioners are present.
Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. Item B, call for a meeting and set Tuesday, October 24th, 2017 as a date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or increased value on property. Is there a motion to approve A and B? Motion by Commissioner Boyle, second by Commissioner Rogers. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, please note that all of Resolution D has been removed, and E, and we are left with Resolutions F and G. The presentation has been removed as well. That it will not be on until the October 24th. So we have Resolutions F and G, no need for executive session. And I would ask that motion to include adjournment. Okay, Commissioner Boyle.
I only have a question about the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm just not together this morning. Anyway, I have a comment about the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ask legal counsel if it'd be appropriate, and I believe it is, to ask the presenter to show us that he has the approval of the property owners to pursue these appeals. And also I do want to look into the situation that Turk does not accept people who are not admitted to the practice of law. They do not accept individuals who do not have some sort of certification. I'd like to hear from Turk about why they don't, because I think maybe we should be doing the same thing.
Okay.
So, but I would like to ask Mr. Bowman to show us that he has the approval of the taxpayer to appeal these. I think this is on automatic pilot, and that's why I'm asking. Can you do that, do you think?
Teresa, York County Attorney's Office, we can take a look at that. As far as coming and speaking to the board, I know the board has entertained other persons coming up and speaking about, their property as compared to their neighbors. And so to the extent that, and I haven't heard his presentation, but to the extent that it is something like that, I think if the board wants to entertain and allow him to come and speak, they certainly could come to this body and do that. But I can certainly take a look at that other question.
Okay, and I think there's a big difference between someone coming to speak about a neighbor's property. Usually it's that their taxes are lower, but they're not. But occasionally I don't remember anything where someone's speaking on behalf of a neighbor, perhaps their neighborhood group, to lower the entire subdivision. But in this case, I believe what's happening is, and I'd like to find out from Mr. Bowman, I think he's soliciting these taxpayers and then pursuing it because he's paid on a percentage basis. And I don't believe that this is something we should be doing. Turk doesn't do it. So I'd like us to, first of all, I guess the first threshold is for him to show us in writing that he has a consent from the taxpayers who are listed in his appeals, that they approve of his appealing their valuations. That's number one. And that can be done pretty immediate. The second issue will take a little bit longer, and that's finding out what the thinking is behind Turk saying we don't take these kinds of appeals, because they don't, which means we bear the brunt and we get all this, and sometimes it's something we can't cure. So I just want to look into the procedures a little bit better. But first off, I want him to certify that in writing from the taxpayer, yes, I want this person to appeal my valuation. Okay? That's what I'm after. And I'll sign the letter if no one
I
wants
think
to.
the question is just to ask him what his presentation, a little bit more detailed about what his presentation is going to be.
I have a feeling what it is.
Okay, but we can ask that just to be sure, and then
Can we
move
ask
on
him?
to the question about showing us proof.
Okay, I do think we should, I'd like to warn him that I expect to see proof. If he doesn't, I don't think he should be allowed to speak on behalf of people who have not given him consent. These taxpayers may not even know he's here. On the other hand, maybe we should contact them and say, do you approve of this?
And we don't know who that is either, so let's find
Okay.
out what it is.
Okay,
first.
I don't mean to spring
Okay.
this on
No,
you. I
no,
should
no.
have talked to
We'll
you in
just find
advance.
out what
Okay.
exactly he's going to be presenting.
And I really am serious about having something in writing from the taxpayer, so I don't want to have him come without that.
Okay, Commissioner Morgan.
Well, I think, Commissioner Boyle, what you're saying is, it'd be like if I saw somebody appealing my taxes on my home.
Right.
And I really don't want
Right.
those appealed. I feel like, hey, it's fine, is what you're trying to get after. And I think that's a good thing, that anyone appealing the taxes should have the permission of that homeowner or property owner, period.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
that's a good thing to bring up. Thank you.
And if I could add this, we may ask Mr. Goodwillie or someone from that office to offer us, they've been through some other things with people who do this, and they may have some suggestion to further improve it. But I don't mean to overburden the board or the law department, but I think it's a basic permission slip I'd like to see. Thank you.
All right, with that, we have a motion to approve resolutions F, G, and adjourn. It was made by
I had
Commissioner
Commissioner Rogers for the
Rogers.
motion, but I did not catch the second.
Commissioner Duda.
Thank you.
With any other further questions or comments, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
We will move to the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Corrections. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle? Commissioner Kavanaugh? Commissioner Duda? Commissioner Kraft? Commissioner Morgan? Commissioner Rogers? Madam Chair?
Here, item 1, approval of the minutes of the Board of Corrections meeting held Tuesday, September 12, 2017. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Rogers, seconded by Commissioner Boyle. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the Board of Corrections about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to the report from the Director of Corrections. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have before you my monthly report for September 2017. Item number 1, Administrative Services. Following the third month of the new fiscal year, we remain under budget. Closure number 2, Community Corrections and In-House Programs. The Reentry Specialist Initiative included the following activities last month. Work began on establishing 4 therapeutic communities in designated jail housing units staffed by reentry specialists who have begun their work by conducting intake interviews, creating individualized reentry plans, and providing ongoing case management for each of the individuals assigned to those housing units. Also, work continued with the research team from the University of Nebraska at Omaha School of Criminology and Criminal Justice on configuring reports from the recently completed data gathering phase and development of an intake interview which will gather more personal history information for case management purposes than the screening tool that was used for the mass data gathering. So as you recall, for several months, the reentry specialists were collecting data pursuant to an 11-page survey, and now that they have all of that data, they will continue collecting data, but it will be on an abbreviated instrument, so we can do more case planning for these individuals case planning, pre-release planning for these individuals moving forward. So that transition is going along quite nicely. Also, development of an additional software functions is also ongoing to accommodate the establishment of the therapeutic community housing units and the individual case management functions in those therapeutic units that I previously described. In October, a trauma psychoeducation group for women provided by the Women's Center for Advancement will be added to our program offerings for female inmates. With regard to the 24/7 alcohol sobriety program, September 5th, drug testing was added to the 24/7 program. The launch has gone smoothly with no significant issues. Since the program's inception in 2014, more than 100,000 breath tests have been completed. There were 38 new admissions to the program last month, which is an all-time high for us. And last month, 2,399 breath tests were completed. 8 were positive for alcohol use. There were 15 no-shows for testing. The overall compliance rate for breath testing was approximately 99%. 35 individuals were monitored for a total of 728 days of SCRAM monitoring. There were 0 no-shows. There was 1 tampering violation, 1 alcohol violation. Overall SCRAM compliance was almost 100%. There were 2 positive drug test violations, 1 drug patch tamper violation, and there were 4 no-shows for drug testing. So the data would indicate that program is going along well, as is the addition of the drug testing component to the 24/7. Work release submitted 46 individuals last month, and those clients donated 326 hours of community service. House arrest admitted 80 individuals last month, and those individuals donated 296 hours of community service last month. Reentry Assistance Program admitted 28 individuals last month. Corrections programs admitted 56 individuals, and that's in-house programs within the secure facility. Pretrial services, or 15 individuals were referred for priority prosecution, saving 349 bed days. 402 individuals were placed on pretrial release. 1,151 individuals were managed on pretrial with a 93% compliance rate. And 188 inmates visited the law library last month. With regard to closure number 3, compliance, data collection continues to ensure compliance, and the ACA audit will take place this month, as will the ICE audit. So it's going to be a busy month for inspections for us. Closure number 4, personnel, a new hire class 17-4 will start on October 30th. It'll be our 4th new hire class this year. With regard to our population, This month, the average population, the average daily population decreased due to our request to lower the United States Marshal population in preparation for the beginning of construction in the annex, and that's pursuant to the public safety bond. So we've reduced our federal prisoner population by 60 inmates. So we had 1,574 admissions last month. We had 1,616 releases, and the higher release number is due to the additional federal releases that we had. High count was 1,378. That's a lot of folks. Low count was 1,269, and our ADP was 1,304. Obviously, then our U.S. Marshal population decreased, the ICE population decreased, and we're trying to manage both of those populations because our population is so high. Felony pretrial population increased, misdemeanor pretrial population increased, female population increased, and our custodial sanction bed days are at 272. And you know, we talked about this in the past, in the custodial sanction bed days, and I'm working on a graphic, a better way to visually depict that number, and we're working, we sat down with some discussions with probation, and we're going to need to marry up our data with their data, and then I can get you some better visual depiction of those custodial bed days, post-release supervision, sanctions, things of that nature. So we met last week. I would think in a couple of weeks we should have an analysis of the merged data, and in my next report I will be able to give you a little bit better picture of what's going on with violations of probations, custodial sanctions, post-release supervision violations, things of that nature. And that's driving, those are some of the things that are driving our population. With regard to enclosure number 6, medical intake screenings, 1,463, H&Ps, 462, discharge referrals, 549. Mental health, there were 107 psych assessments, there were 169 mental health assessments, there were 64 mental health infirmary placements, and with regard to referral to community-based mental health services, outpatient psych med management, 15, mental health and co-occurring disorder treatment programs, 242, mental health therapy, 32, and long-term psych, 2. And that's all I have for today.
Okay, any questions? Commissioner Morgan?
Mark, sound like a broken record. I again want to thank you for your work and your team and the way everyone works together there to do the best they can for the people that unfortunately are incarcerated there. The difficulty, I think, and you can correct me, is the fact that you have people, I think, sleeping almost on the floor because of the overcrowding. And then you've worked, of course, most of the people that are there we don't get reimbursed for, and yet the federal that you declined some would be the paying people. So it's kind of a difficult thing as far as your budget's concerned, because where you would have revenue, you're declining those have to because of the overcrowded situation. And that's what you're up against at the present time. Is that accurate?
That's correct. So my concern is that impacts the budget from both ends. It's going to impact on the expenditure side, as spoken to you on numerous occasions, as our overtime continues to be very high. Mandatory overtime, we continue to work with that, but that's much more mandatory overtime than I like to say. I'd like to see no mandatory overtime. But the issue then becomes, as we expend funds from the general fund because of the overcrowded situation, we're also losing money from the Marshal Service, from ICE, from the federal prisoners as well. So it's problematic from both ends as we move through this budget cycle.
And maybe at the 180-day mark of the budget year, maybe, it might be good if Commissioner Boyle and myself and Joe Lorenz maybe met with you, kind of talk about, see where we are as far as your budget, knowing that there might have to be a supplement, hopefully not, but at least talk about it a little bit and find out. The other thing you mentioned is the construction where you've had to, move out of some areas. Is there, and I know they're working diligently on that, how long does it look like that? Do you have any dates and things like that yet?
Well,
I know it's early.
It is early. They just completed work on housing unit 2. That's a 64-bed unit, so they completed that work and they moved into the annex gym, so they're working on that. We're trying to get them to move along in about 3 weeks so we can have those housing units back. Right now they're on track to complete hopefully phase 1 January, February, something like that, and then we'll move into phase 2. So work remains to be done. We've phased the project. We're moving after November. Hope that the population eases just a little bit so we don't have so many people on the floor, but we'll have to continue to monitor that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Boyle?
Yes, and I echo Commissioner Morgan. You've got a fan club, at least of 2 here. I think there's more, but anyway, we really appreciate the work that you and your staff do. It's remarkable. I want to mention we were in Lincoln at a meeting of Sarpy and Lancaster County and Douglas, and one of the things that came up was LB 605 and that mythical $500,000 to help defer the cost of people coming back to our facilities. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Lancaster County said they were able to obtain a total of $50,000 out of that pool. I think it might be a good idea for us, since it's so difficult to track the additional cost, because it has to be such drilled down into something that you didn't have to spend money for before, I guess, that maybe we ought to be telling the introducers of the legislation, and certainly Douglas County senators, that this is a real cost to Douglas County property taxpayers, that without being able to access these funds, that it's very unclear. Something needs to be done to straighten it out, and secondly, to make it clear so that we can all apply. And secondly, that the funds ought to be larger, because it certainly exceeds $500,000 for probably one county, let alone the 3. So I just suggest that maybe the chair would consider doing that. The other, excuse me, the other thing, I enjoyed we had a lunch last week and talked about the bail situation. We have folks sitting in the facility that can't make bail, usually for fairly small offenses, and it does cause a lot of other problems, because if they're there and they are the wage earner for a family, it does compound things and puts pressure on families and kicks in a lot of other social services, perhaps. I asked that Commissioner Rogers be involved in this at the lead, at least for the county board. It's not my authority to do that, but I asked him to do that because he's on a national organization and he's totally up to speed on what's happening around the country. And so we are going to have a meeting, and we are going to have it at the jail facility, and discuss this and try to find some alternatives. It will be an open meeting, so we'll have to have it at a place that's people can get in if anyone comes. We're going to ban the World Herald. They won't be able to be. No, we'll let Carlton in. We'll let you in. But anyway, so the meeting, it'll be an open meeting, and the public will be invited. But I don't think many will come. But it will be fully disclosed what we talk about. So, I think that you're in the planning stages for that. So I wanted to mention that. And if you, again, I appreciate your leadership and Commissioner Rogers' leadership on this issue particularly.
One of the, as you mentioned, one of the things we're working on also, we sat down and had several meetings with probation, and we're working with the chief and their administration down in Lincoln to see if there are some ways that we can work better with probation to move some of that population out of our facility, cut down the length of time between conviction, sentencing date. So I see some opportunities to ease our population a little bit with some of the things that we have in the works with probation. So I would acknowledge that. hopefully we'll have something that I can report to you firmly within the next, well, in my November, gosh, years go fast. In my November report, we should have some firm details of what those opportunities are going to look like for us.
Okay.
And again, we've gone to several different entities, several of our other criminal justice partners, and this is pursuant to conversations that come out of the Criminal Justice Systems Management Council. Are there some efficiencies that can be achieved that will help decrease our population a little bit as we continue to be in this high ADP?
One last thing. Usually we get a report from the Chief Administrative Officer, but I know there have been some injuries over there with some of our staff, and I'm always concerned about that, first of all, because I want them to know that we're aware of it. But also, we don't have anything like on the level of the state facility. But I don't know that people really understand how this all works, that we have men and women by themselves inside the locked area with direct supervision over a number of inmates, 20 to 30 sometimes. 64, thank you. Quite a few, and so things can happen. And it's remarkable how under control it all is, but it's a real feather in the cap of the men and women who handle that and handle it with great diplomacy, I might say. But there are injuries, usually with someone who's having trouble in a cell or something like that. But I guess the purpose of this bringing it up is that you notify us, and we are all aware of the injuries, so we don't take that lightly, and we want to have all of our staff safe at that facility, and that's why I mentioned that.
I would add to that. I mentioned it here before. I don't know that people realize the difficult nature of the job of correctional officers and the volatile nature of some of the individuals that come into the facility. We have a very professional staff. People that come through the facility continue to compliment the professionalism of the staff and sanitation of the facility and the operation, and that's owing to the men and women that toil there every day. So I'm very proud of them. Very proud of them.
Well, I know the one word that you always bring up, and I try to mimic you at the ceremonies when we welcome the new personnel, is you use the word respect, that we respect the people who are there, and they are, for the most part, proven innocent. They're innocent until proven guilty. So I appreciate your attitude. It permeates the whole facility, and I appreciate the personnel believing in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rogers?
So Mark, let me ask you on page 15, just to help me in the report. So, so for the month, newly, because Mike and I had some dialogue over email to kind of this. So for the month is 402 newly admitted, and then if you go down to felonies closed, is that 302 number? Is that people who were denied? Or does that mean something else? Who were denied pretrial?
I'm going to have Mike come down and
Okay.
explain that to you. I know we sent an email out to you, and that was the clarification between the pretrial people that pretrial release teams are supervising, who are out in the community, and the people who are have pretrial release opportunity, but it's in combination with the bond. So once they make bond, then they'll transition over to the pretrial release team. So there's combos, and then there's a straight pretrial release. Those individuals who are out in the community and are calling in. And I think, as I was looking at that string of emails, I think that was some of the confusion with regard to the numbers. So I hope that email clarified that a bit. But I'll have Mike speak to the 309 number closed. Mike?
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Myers, the Community Corrections Manager for the Department of Corrections.
Well, no, let me make sure, Mike, because what I'm trying to clear first is, so I know, I see from it that 402 were admitted this month. The 309 number is at the bottom is another thing, but that line where it says felony closed, total inmates interviewed, but not placed on pretrial. So that means for the month, 402 were admitted, 302 were denied pretrial. So it's kind of half and half, almost.
That looks to be about correct, Commissioner.
Okay.
And, yes, so the
So
way that...
my no, and that's all. My question though for Mark, is it possible to somehow start to be able to see what in that 302 number is the cause of it, just to get some idea of what's the issues preventing it? I mean, you all probably got top of your head, but I'm just trying to see number-wise what is the deciding factor and what may deny them. Is it possible to analyze that over time?
Yeah, we can look into that.
Okay.
And it'll be driven off the top of my head. I can't give you the percentages of this, but it's driven by a variety of factors why people who may be given pretrial release, meaning the call-in system,
Yeah.
as an option that they don't actually get placed on it. They may get that as an additional condition to paying a bond, and they don't pay, they're unable to pay the bond, so that pretrial release can, it's basically what the judge is saying is, if you pay the bond, then when you get out, you have to do the call-in system. Well, if they never pay the bond, then the call-in system comes into play. There are others that have more than one case, and so they may be granted pretrial release. There may be an order for pretrial release on one case, and they're may be held without a bond on another case. And there's a third group that may have holds for other jurisdictions. So we may be granting them pretrial release, but we can't release them because we're holding them for another jurisdiction.
So the next question I was going to have, so clients who should be calling, they form into that second group you just laid out?
Correct. Those are the people who have gotten out.
Okay.
Who we are expecting a call from. There's the big number at the top, the total admitted clients and the carryover from the previous month. Those numbers reflect everybody who has an active pretrial release order, including those under those conditions that I just mentioned, who for whatever reason are unable to get out of jail.
Okay.
The 651 are the people who are in fact out and expected to call in on the system.
Okay. So explain to me that the line where it says total pretrial client incarcerated or in treatment, and it's 500. How you on pretrial and incarcerated?
That's the condition. Like if you had a bond.
Okay.
And the judge gave you a bond and then also said pretrial release, but you haven't been able to pay your bond, or there's a hold, or the other cases. That 500 is that group of people.
So technically, because you haven't paid the bond, you're technically incarcerated, but you're not in there.
Correct. I mean, it's should you get out, you will be on the pretrial release system.
Okay.
You're not just ROR'd with no obligations whatsoever.
Okay. So, is by the fact that we have a 93% compliance rate, does that mean that we're not taking enough risk?
I'm not.
And I figure that's a judge's call, but I put that out here. Do we need to take a little more? You got a 93% rate.
Right.
Can you take a little more risk and at least have high 80s or something?
That's a good question, Commissioner, which will require a little more.
Okay.
All
right, I got one. Huh?
That's always a difficult question. I believe I spoke to that in the past. Is how much risk do you want to take?
Yeah.
And
I know.
that's something that we discuss amongst ourselves. It's something that we discuss when we're talking with the other criminal justice partners in the community. How much risk do you want to take? What type of risk are you talking about? What's the impact likely on the community? There's an individual who may not call in, but he's stepped by unlawful taking ×4 with 4 or 5 failure to appears. So risk in terms of not coming back to court, risk in terms of committing another crime, risk in terms of assaulting somebody while he or she's out on bond. There's a number of different factors that feed into that risk category, and it's a very difficult, which is why the screening instrument is so important. So we can identify a potential level of risk, we can identify potential level of need, and maybe we can infuse some help. We can diminish the likelihood increased risk, and increased needs, which ultimately can result in running afoul of the law again.
Okay, let me give you this. Can you put that up there? I want to ask you a question about this. I don't know if it can fit on the view thing so the commissioners can see.
Put it on the,
If you need some help, let me know.
Okay, you can zoom in down there on that part I got down the bottom, note in red. Okay, so I just want to, so this is the monthly thing we get, but when you see this daily, I just want to understand that, I'm just trying to understand the philosophy of why the pretrial and the sentence people on the same line. I'm just trying to understand your logic with that. Because I'm assuming that for today, when that comes out in the morning, that's what we have pretrial-wise, 124 total. And I'm just want to understand what I'm reading if I look at that in the morning. Why the pretrial holds and the sentences, the sentence on the same line.
In the
So the pretrial release number, the 1241, those are the numbers of people who currently have pretrial release orders. Among that 1241 are the approximately 650 people who are not in custody, who are calling in.
Okay.
The pretrial hold, that's the number of people in the jail who they may or may not have an order for pretrial release, but that statistic refers to people who are not yet sentenced but in our jail. So if pretrial hold and pretrial release, I'm sure there are overlap in those populations, but they refer to two separate characteristics.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And those numbers don't quite match up with the number that we have in custody today, because you also got federal people in there that are not counted in those two categories. But you can see my sentence population is up a little bit. We were running 112, 115, but even still 138. There's not very many sentenced people in the jail.
Okay.
Most of what we're housing are pretrial detainees.
Okay. Okay, I'll get a better grip offline. Thanks.
Commissioner Boyle?
Most of the pages are marked, but I was not able, is that page in this report?
No, that's
That's just a daily census.
Yeah, I asked them to just put me on a list so I can see what the number is in the morning.
Okay, did all of us get that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, maybe, Mr. Rogers, should that be included in this report somewhere so we can?
No, I just asked along when I first got here to see that, and so that just tells you the daily percentage of what's in the jail that day. So, I mean, I think if anybody any of us can get on the list, I'm assuming.
So should it be included somewhere, do you think? Or is
It's
it,
a
do we all
daily
get this?
No,
I
that's a
don't remember
daily
seeing it.
thing. I think
I don't
On
remember.
your email.
we all can just get through email.
Okay, I guess I haven't
If you
seen it.
want it.
I can send this out to you if you want. This is what I get every day, so I track the population. What you get in my monthly report is the aggregate of this.
Okay. All right.
So if you want that every day, we just have him add the board to the email list. Might be
Okay,
the
I'll have to,
easiest.
I think if you send it to Commissioner Rogers, then he can explain it to me. That'd be great. We don't need any more copies. Thanks. I'll just rely on you, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you. And you, gentlemen. Thank you.
That it. So just, I want to go back and make sure that the custodial sanction bed days, those were started to be tracked specifically for that LB 605.
That's correct.
And just to reiterate again, the $500,000, not only is it hard to get those funds, you have to track it for 3 years, and it has to be reimbursable for a new program, not program, right? Evidence-based new program, not what we are currently doing, or for any costs that we might be incurring for those individuals. So, a lot of
as my population increases, and I believe I spoke to this in the past as well. I need hard resources, which that grant opportunity won't provide. I need supplement my overtime budget. That won't do that. Capital expenditures, that grant won't do that. It's for new programs. And
right.
Commissioners, we have a lot of programs. We have a lot of reentry programs in Douglas County right now. We have several grants driving a lot of those programs. What I need money for is reimburse my overtime costs, my volunteer overtime, my mandatory overtime, any capital expenditure I might need to deal with the increased population.
Right. So I just wanted to make sure that that was understood, that it's not a $500,000 out there that's easily accessible.
Right.
No, ma'am.
To us. So the other thing is, and I'm glad there's some union folks and officers in the audience, because as we talk about all of this, one of the things that we need to try to be, I think, more proactive about is the needs of our officers when they're encountering all of this stuff.
Right.
And so, again, you talk about programming or needs for things. To me, if we could continue to do the CIT trainings, but even more.
Yes.
In the past, I know you and I have talked about, and I've talked to the union members about a specific mobile crisis team within the jail.
Yes.
To respond. And then something other, I mean, I know we have an EAP program, but I think we need, and we have the
Desert Waters.
Yes, program, but I think that if we had maybe kind of a round table with them to try to figure out what is it that we could be providing, as we're not only looking at what we provide to the individuals that they're watching every day and we're assisting every day, but what we can do for them every day that they're encountering these things. And Commissioner Boyle brought up the issue about staff assaults, and we took that off of our main agenda, but I think if you would put that in the corrections report, that would be more appropriate place for it. Obviously, we don't want and can't have a lot of details if there's potential legal or liability issues there, but that is something that I think we have to keep in the forefront of our conversations and be aware of, because it is a dangerous job over there. You know, they're not just picking them up and putting them someplace. They're with them every single day, the men and women that are working for us over there. So I think that if we have those discussions along with this report, that might just add a little bit of at least conversation with this board of what we can do a little bit more for the staff.
I have a meeting scheduled with Officer Young, who's one of several officers behind the Desert Waters initiative, and that's this week, I believe. So what he and I can discuss during that meeting is perhaps scheduling a date where we can brief the board on the classes that they have brought forward thus far and what the feedback has been.
Right. Yeah. Great.
Great idea. Good.
Okay. Anything else from either of you? All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before the motion to adjourn, there is a tour of the facility today after the board meeting. So is there a motion to adjourn out of the Board of Corrections?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
The agenda for the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, item 1, roll call, sorry.
That's all right. Commissioner Boyle?
Here.
Commissioner Kavanaugh? Commissioner Duda? Here. Commissioner Kraft?
Here.
Commissioner Morgan? Here. Commissioner Rogers? Here. Madam Chair?
Here.
All
Item
commissioners are present.
A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017, and item B, approval of claims submitted for payment processed through Tuesday, October 17th, 2017.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Morgan, second by Commissioner Boyle. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Commissioner Kraft has stepped away. All other commissioners voting yes. Motion passes.
Next is the consent agenda, items A through I. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Rogers. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes. All commissioners present voting yes.
Next is an employee recognition there of an employee who is retiring from the Department of Corrections. She is not present today, but Selena Sanchez is retiring after 13 years. We recognize her and thank her for her service and send her well wishes on her retirement. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Boyle, second by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes. All commissioners present voting yes.
Except for Kraft. Oh, I'm sorry you said that.
Yep.
I'll let you run it.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the Board of Commissioners about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to public hearings. There is a public hearing for a class licensed beer for license for SRB Inc., DBA Timber Creek Pizza and Pub at 6718 South 178th Street in Douglas County. Application is Matthew Bashara from 5619 South 208th Street in Elkhorn. This is the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak during the public hearing on this liquor license? Hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm Matt Bashara.
Okay.
That's it.
You're just looking for us
Yeah.
for approval, right?
Yeah. This isn't my first rodeo, so.
Okay.
Good.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against during the public hearing? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. What's
Motion
the
to
will of the
approve.
board?
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kraft, did you want to vote on this? Okay. Commissioner Kavanaugh has now stepped away. Commissioner Kraft has rejoined us, and all commissioners present voting yes. Motion passes.
Next, we will move to committee reports. First is the Budget Committee. It is the budget report as presented, unless there's anything anyone else has a question on with that. Seeing none, we will move to Human Resources. The weekly personnel report is presented, unless there's questions or comments. Legislative issues. We will have a Human Resources meeting come October 16th, and we'll begin to craft our legislative report or legislative initiatives for the upcoming year during that meeting. Commissioner Morgan?
I do want to go back to the finance for a moment.
Okay, so anything else on legislation? Before we go on to the item under the Human Resources, Commissioner Morgan, you want to say something under budget?
I want to mention on the budget, Commissioner Boyle and I talked with Joe Lorenz, our finance director, and are moving toward early work on the budget early next year. And what the plan would be, after some discussion, is to have those that don't meet our recommended budget level to proceed the same way as we did last year, where they'd come here and talk about why they couldn't meet the suggested budget that Joe Lorenz and all of us will work on. And then the others we will meet in 903. I don't want it to be an interrogation, but I do want us to ask questions, concerning the budget. And just for your own information, we did meet with Doug Kagan because they participate in all our budget meetings to get some input about that. He seems to feel this would be a good way to proceed also. Not that we take that advice totally, but we do listen to all the taxpayers. I didn't get input from Chris Burbach yet, but we'll see what his objections might be to the procedure. But we want to continue to be, and all of you have participated in this and suggested it. I know Mark, first year we started, when I started here as a board member 7 years ago, that we want to be as transparent as possible and listen to the taxpayers and make it very, very open. So I wanted to give you a heads up, so if somebody has some objections, they can state those. But I thank Joe Lorenz for his leadership and how we proceed.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, PJ and I talked about this, and I agree totally. This is a very good approach, and we also talked to Joe about it, and it makes really good sense. That way there is that opportunity to question everybody, even though they have a budget that meets the goals. This is a little bit off the track a little, but I wondered, do we have any report from that Public Service Commission meeting up in Ogallala or wherever it was?
No, are we going back down to?
Well, maybe it's down under something else.
No, but I can find out where that is.
Okay, I'm real concerned about it because we're getting shortchanged, obviously.
Yep,
okay.
absolutely.
Thanks.
So with that, we do have one item under HR, and that's a discussion and action on fully insured vision insurance plan. And Matt Oberle from the Human Resources is here to walk us through this.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Let me start with a little bit of history about our vision insurance plan. Looking back, it looks like 2008 is when we initially had a vision materials benefit for frames, lenses, contact lenses, those types of things. And since that time, our rate or premium rates have not increased, the rate that the employee pays. And so since we are looking at separating out, or we are separating out our medical, dental, vision this year, I thought it made sense to look at a fully insured option. And it looks like if we switch to that from a self-funded, we can save ourselves close to $175,000 a year on that plan administration. So that's a pretty good savings for us, while at the same time offering our employees something better than what they're currently receiving with UHC in terms of benefits. Now, of course, there is a small increase in the premium to the tune of approximately $40 a year for a family coverage, anywhere from 25 to 40, depending on which vendor we decide to actually go with. Davis Vision and IMED are the two that we have narrowed it down to with help from Aon. They have nothing but good things to say about Davis Vision. Clients that they work with in the Omaha area have switched them, very happy with the service. I have also used IMED in the past at previous employers and have no complaints with them either, so I don't think we can lose either way. The reason that we recommend Davis is that they do offer just a little bit more in the way of benefits. They have a relationship with VisionWorks, and VisionWorks, it happens to be at all of the major malls and shopping areas, Shadow Lake and Sarpy County, West Roads, and Oakview. And so they just offer a better benefit in terms of frames there. Some of the collections are covered at 100%, so definitely a good thing for our members. So after blazing through all of that information, what kind of questions do you have today?
Commissioner Boyle?
Will an employee or a member of the employee's family have the choice to go anywhere they want to?
Yeah, the network with Davis Vision or IMED is much larger than it is with Spectera.
Okay.
Spectera has not all private optometrists and ophthalmologists are in network. So I think Davis Vision is 91% covered with our metropolitan area, and IMED is at 94. So. Okay.
The other question I have is that when I've tried to get, I need glasses for vision, and the company does not cover glasses that convert to sunglasses or sunglasses, which is pretty stupid, I think, because that's when I need them, when I'm driving in the sun to see what's going on, and they don't cover it. Will this company cover those?
I'd have to check on specifics to make sure that would be met in this document. I can get back to you, absolutely.
To me, it's pretty basic, but I've never gotten them covered from Spectra, whoever they are. Okay, let me know or something. Let us know.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Commissioner Morgan?
They should almost be covered because, as all of us know, your eye doctor will tell you that when you're on the sun, you want to wear sunglasses because it's just going to damage your eyes all the time.
I do, but I buy them myself if there's a coverage, It's kind of, to me, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'd be happy to look at that.
Thanks.
Make sure that,
All right. Any other questions or comments on this? Otherwise, we do have action item that we can approve the going with Davis Vision as our vision insurer vendor for starting January of 2018.
It might be
No.
good to get an email on those locations
Yep.
at some point, not
Yeah.
any rush.
Absolutely.
Okay,
thanks.
Commissioner Rogers, was that a motion? And then
Second.
Commissioner Morgan seconded it. Please vote.
Thank you.
Thank
And,
you.
Commissioner Kavanaugh?
We do have need for an executive
Oh,
session.
okay. Sorry, Madam Chair. The Commissioner Kavanaugh is voting yes, and
Oh,
all
sorry.
commissioners voted yes. Motion passes.
Do you have litigation? Real estate and litigation? No. Union? No, just real estate. Okay. So, before we go into executive session, just a reminder that we will not be meeting next week, October 17th. And, did you have something, Mark? Oh, after the
Tour.
after the executive session, there's a tour, and we'll get a text to you to let you know how many after we're done here. Okay? So, did we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Boyle, seconded by Commissioner Kraft. Please vote.
Commissioner Kavanaugh? Okay. Commissioner Morgan is voting yes. All commissioners present voting yes. Motion passes.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
Mike, you're going over. Yes. I wondered about that. All I ever do. That's good. I never
What?
have to worry about what I do.
There you go.
Yeah, you and Claire. Yeah. So, I would just say go ahead and
Thanks,
go. I'll
Therese.
tell Mark you guys are on your way.
How are you going? You're not going, Mary?
I got a car.
Mary Ann?
After I sign the stuff, where'd
Or why
Catherine
don't
go?
you just come back and do it and go with Mike? Yeah, fun.
All right, what time is it? All right, 'cause I gotta, yeah, I have time. I gotta catch a plane. Yeah, he's taking Mark.
Commissioners Kavanaugh and Morgan, are you yeses? Yep, okay, awesome, thank you. Motion passes, all commissioners present voting yes.